here we go. 7, 6, 5, 4. Don't forget, I'm coming from this. Gotcha. All right, here we go. Ladies and germs, pre-ops and post-ops, and children of all ages, from an undisclosed location somewhere in beautiful downtown, none of your business, my name is Matt Murdock, and here to bring you the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour, makes everybody stand and holler, the master blaster, the master of disaster, and the undisputed talk show champion of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mandrake. Mandrake.
Hello, everybody out there. Hello to our vast listening audience. Hello, Mr. Murdoch. It's been a while.
Regarding our vast audience now, since we've been away for a while, at last count when we were doing our thing, we had built up our sizable audience to 12. Since we've been gone, I guess, people thought that we were gone away, so they kind of quit watching. So now we're back down to that sizable audience being 2 people. So those 2 people, we thank you for sticking with us.
Well, you're being far
we got to build it back up.
You're being far too modest, Mr. Murdoch. The fact of the matter is several thousand loyal Mandrake fans decided that they were going to overwhelm our server and try and contact us. We couldn't respond to so many of yous out there, but what we're trying to do now is make up for lost time. It's been 5 long months, but in this time, we've honed our craft. We've improved our game. We've done a lot of research on what the opposition, meaning those that are trying to destroy our country from within, are up to. We have names, places, and we've developed a plan in order to fight back against the powers that be that want to drag this country down to the bottom of the pit. Do you understand?
I got you.
Did you get the memo on what we plan on doing?
Yeah, but first, before we do that, there's something I've been waiting 5 months to do. Finally! Finally, Mandrake and Murdoch have come back to SIC TV.
Well, the undisclosed location may
If you
or may not
smell
be
what
anywhere
Murdoch
near
is cooking.
something called whatever it is you just said. However,
Yeah, beautiful downtown, none of your business.
that's right. So what we're trying to tell the audience out there again is welcome to the Lionel Mandrake and Matt Murdoch show. Now, we know that in the last several months there's been a lot going on in the news. In fact, there's so much going on, we really don't know where to begin. But before we discuss anything that has to do with politics, I'd like to say on behalf of the Lionel Mandrake show, being Lionel Mandrake himself, and on Matt Murdoch's behalf, that we do not, cannot, and will not, nor have we ever endorsed any political candidate whatsoever.
We simply offer our opinions.
What we're doing is giving our opinions. We're commentators. So we're trying to observe the social scene as it appears from the, I would say, socially conservative right, although we're more in the middle of that. However, let it just be said and be clear that we are not endorsing any candidate for president of the United States of America. Am I right, Mr. Murdoch?
Absolutely
We
correct.
are keeping an open mind. We are listening to what all the candidates have to say. We're talking Hillary Clinton, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz. Who's that other one with the building in Manhattan? The Trump Tower?
Trump,
Trump, Mr.
yeah.
Donald Trump.
Donald
All these
Trump,
people,
yeah, right.
we're listening to what they have to say, and we have not decided whatsoever to endorse any candidate. And the reason for that is because we're just simply not sure who can govern this country, this great country,
Oh,
the
by
best.
the way, you left one off the list, and we don't want to get any people saying that, you didn't talk about him. Bernie Sanders, he's in there, too.
And let's not forget Dr. Carson. I mean, Dr.
Yes.
Carson is really having his keister handed to him right now. Why is it, Mr. Murdoch, do you think that the mainstream media, after the last CNBC, debate, went after Mr. Carson and all the Republican candidates up there in the way that they did?
Debate. Shouldn't the proper word be debacle? Because that's pretty much what it was.
You may say it was a debacle, but it's...
And well, see, now, how I say it was debacle, even some liberals are saying that CNBC dropped the ball on that. Now, it's pretty bad when liberals are calling out other liberals and saying, man, y'all messed up.
And what did you think about that particular question that they addressed to, let's say, the front runner, Mr. Trump? They were asking him something that was quite unfriendly. Do you remember what that first question was?
Name one.
Well, they were asking him
They've been hitting him on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I think they were asking him, since when have you stopped beating your wife or something like
No,
that?
they were asking. No, I thought they asked Carson that.
Well, it might be because he went
All
after his
these
mother with
debates
a
are like
hammer.
running together in my mind, so I don't know.
Well, they were really asking questions that were beyond the pale, very, not objective, and certainly is sort of laced with all kinds of innuendo and disdain for the candidates. It was extremely disrespectful. But now the most recent Democratic and Republican debates that are going to be coming up, the last one Republican being last week, and
Right.
I thought
And
that Fox News Financial News did a good job on it.
they did much better than CNBC did.
Right.
But then again, the Children's Miracle Network probably could have done a better job than CNBC.
Well, CMBLSD, as Mark Levin likes to call that operation, MSLSD, and CNBC, whoever these people are, they really do embody a sort of intellectual dishonesty that was really put succinctly by Ted Cruz when he said, these type of questions that you're presenting to us is the very reason why the American public does not trust the mainstream media.
Yeah.
When did you, Mr. Trump, what kind of a comic book hero are you? Mr. Carson, can you add? Marco Rubio, since when did you bang out your last credit card? Questions like that.
Here's the thing, okay? And I think more and more people are beginning to finally understand this. The media in this country, and I'm talking about the media across the board, whether it's left-wing, MSNBC, right-wing, Fox, they're all biased now. There is no such thing as across the board, call it down the middle. Everybody is now in the business of trying to tear down one agenda and build up another. There's no way you can trust any of them because they've all the media has become political opportunism is what it is.
Yes,
now.
it seems like the American mainstream media, as most reasonable people would observe if they are intellectually honest about it, appears to be an extension of the Democratic Party and the American left wing. And it's very unfortunate.
Hey, now hold on. Let me call you out. Okay, all right. There was a time when that was absolutely true, but now you cannot say that as if to imply that there's not a right-wing media that's doing the same thing in service of the Republican Party. What's happening now is that both sides of the media, right and left, have become political mouthpieces for each of the political parties.
Well, let's not forget that these.
It's not just left-wing; it's right-wing too.
Well, let's not forget
it's across the board.
Mr. Murdoch, let's not forget that so much of the media is owned by major corporations, stockholders, and very wealthy people, and they have certainly an interest in a certain agenda, which to me really doesn't seem to bode well for certainly the Republicans. It seems to be more heavily weighted on the side of the Democrats, supporting their policies and their programs.
Well, that's because the Democrats have been doing it longer. But what my point is, it's no longer a valid point to say it's just the left-wing media, liberal media.
Well,
it's on both sides now.
Well,
it's just that the liberals have been at it longer.
I would have to somewhat disagree, although it's very hard to distinguish left wing from right. There was a Freudian slip.
That was subliminal Freudian slip, ladies and
gentlemen. The right-wing
gentlemen.
media, and the simple reason is because both of them seem to sound quite a bit alike. If you listen to the newspapers and the television stations, how they handle these political candidates.
Well, that's a valid point. It's to the point now where if you're not watching closely, you can't really tell which is which because both of them are now. Each side now is like hatchet men for their political side. Hooray for our side now. It really has become political football.
Well, it's unfortunate because what are they? The Fifth Estate, the media, the defenders of truth, and the protector of the common man. They were put in place, and they are constitutionally protected. The media,
right.
The profession of journalism, they're constitutionally protected. The only one, in fact, that's particularly mentioned in in our founding papers about how the right of the press is not to be infringed.
That's true. But the thing about it is, it's
Freedom
now
of the press.
gotten to the point now where it's become abused. And I'll tell you where the whole thing started. Now, you and I are about the same age, so you probably remember this too. When I first noticed that when it was becoming that way was back during the days of Watergate. And we all know the role that, the media played in bringing down the Nixon presidency. Ever since that time when they realized that they had enough power, think about it, this was unprecedented. When the media realized that they had enough power that they could bring down a sitting president, and everything just started from there. And over the years, the floodgates just started opening.
I'm not sure
and-
it began with the Watergate the Watergate break-in that brought down President Nixon's presidency, but it did certainly begin in the 1960s. Even the Vietnam War was covered by Walter Cronkite and a lot of people in at the time CBS, the mainstream media. They were also viewed as people who were not really reporting properly as to what was going on in Vietnam. Some people would disagree. Remember the Winter Soldier incident where there was a village, they claimed that U.S. soldiers went there, massacred some of the villagers and so forth. And then there was some question as to whether or not that incident actually really happened or not. And it became so muddled that the story really became as the press actually reporting it accurately rather than what actually happened.
Are we referring to the infamous My Lai incident?
I think so.
Lieutenant Calley, William Calley, for those of you who aren't young enough to remember that part of American history.
From your recollection of the events, how did that proceed? What happened?
Well, now, pretty much from what I understand, there was some kind of conflict in which a bunch of innocent civilians got killed, but what's murky is now exactly what the facts are. The only thing we know from history is that they felt that, or at least some people thought that there was enough to bring Lieutenant Calley up on charges, and he was convicted pretty much.
And I think they put him in Leavenworth for a while for that.
I believe they
imprisoned
did.
him. But in any event, I know John Kerry, who's now our very competent Secretary of State. Didn't Mr. Kerry? I don't even want to call him Secretary of State Kerry because he's so incompetent. Now I know that one of the candidates out there.
Most of the time, you don't even know he's there.
One of the candidates, I don't know his name. I think it might have been the front runner. Mr. Trump said, he's probably him and Secretary Hillary Clinton are probably two of the absolute worst secretaries of state that this country has ever had. I think Mr. Kerry, Secretary of State Kerry, actually took his medals and threw them into a pond because he was actually one of the people involved in raising the issues of U.S. Troop misbehavior and war crimes during the Vietnam War.
And
a lot of what he said was not true or was mischaracterized.
In a different political climate, he was catapulted into a career in politics largely on that.
Can you imagine who would have ever thought that such a seemingly, I'm not saying that Kerry is anti-American or that Hillary Clinton is anti-American or are, the type of people who would embrace anti-American sentiments. But certainly if you look at their statements and how they view America as being guilty until proven innocent, I certainly feel that these are two people that it's a miracle that they were elected to the various high offices that they have held down through the years. Miss Hillary Clinton as, Senator and Secretary of State and, even First Lady, which, of course, she wasn't elected to that post. She happened to follow along on Billy Bob's coattails into the White House.
Bob.
Right.
Slick Willie. Get it right. Slick Willie.
I think there was another nickname for him that I heard of recently.
Bubba.
Bubba, exactly.
Which I think is kind of funny because I had an uncle, God rest his soul, was named Bubba. Uncle Bubba.
Really?
He was a bootlegger, by the way.
Well, isn't
that's for another show.
Isn't the quintessential big bad guy in a jail cell that they're going to throw you in after picking you up on a side country road named Bubba when they throw you in the cell? Is that?
Bubba can take different forms. Bubba can be a good old jovial natured country boy, or he can be a big 400-pound guy in jail prison that looks like Mark Henry from the WWE.
Don't drop the soap. Unbelievable. But what I have to say about the current state of the political climate, it's very toxic. It's almost hard to distill who
current. How about for the last couple of decades?
I'm trying to focus in on our current, run for president here. We have several candidates. First of all, we had a field of 18 Republican candidates. 18. I mean, that was a really fairly large field. I don't recall ever hearing of 18 candidates before in one party.
What I find interesting about this particular election cycle is that we had some that were, running on the Republican ticket that were running the last time around, and they're not faring as well this time around.
Are you talking about, for example, Kasich?
Yeah, he would be a good example. It's like people hardly even know he's in the race now. Rick Perry, who was high up last time, Didn't he drop out recently?
He did drop out, right? And I think candidate Trump actually gave him a little boot in the keister to help him get on the way out the door. It was kind of funny.
Don't let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you.
Pretty funny. Now, who's the guy who's a conspiracy theorist, kind of small government? His father's a doctor.
Rand Paul.
Oh, exactly, Rand Paul. Now, Mr. Paul, he's always on the end there, and I recall that Trump was saying, I don't have to listen to this guy, and he's so low in the polls, that's why he's way out there on the end. I mean, it's comments like that
Yeah.
that really endear the public to Donald Trump. You got to admit, he is certainly a guy that doesn't take any kind of guff from anybody.
Well, he speaks his mind. You got to say that about him. Now, and that's a perfect segue into a story I wanted to bring
Go
up.
for it. Let's hear it.
And you and I have discussed this off the air a lot about how the GOP hierarchy, the establishment party, so to speak,
The goofy old party? Yeah.
is hey, he's actually being bipartisan. Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it? I mean, after what they've morphed into, it's hard to tell what they are nowadays.
But and this has always been the case. The GOP establishment machine is so afraid of Trump and now
exactly.
Carson that they are now actually there is a movement underfoot. I don't know if y'all can see this. They are actually trying to draft Mitt Romney to get back into
You've got
the
to be
race.
kidding. Are you serious?
That's how desperately are like, Mitt, come save us.
Well, if Mitt has any,
that's what
if
he
Mitt
had
has
on,
any
right?
sense, he's going to stay far away from this mess because he knows that, as a what is he? Is he a one or two-time loser? I lost count.
Well, no, he only ran one time before.
All right. Well, if he runs again, he'll be a two-time
He
loser. So I'm trying
he
to.
was the most recent Republican nominee.
Right. When he ran up against, President Obama, I mean, he's got his butt handed to him, and the reason is because he was a very likable guy, a nice guy, but he didn't speak enough in terms that people could really relate to. People want to hear that we have a problem. The problem has to do with the security of our national interests. The problem has to do with our immigration policy, and the problem has to do with our insecure southern border, and some would say soon-to-be northern border, with the importation of 25,000 Syrian refugees that Canada is planning on accepting.
Well, it's interesting that what's going on here, and you just kind of alluded to it, and I've heard this said about Romney, and I heard the same thing about another aspiring, presidential candidate, Al Gore. Now, if there's any way that a conservative Republican and a liberal Democrat can have something in common, this is it. The thing that I heard mentioned about both of them is that, we have a phone call.
Nope, that was just Mr. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing that I heard mentioned about both of them is that they might have won election or had a better chance of being elected had they been themselves.
Right. Exactly.
Instead of playing to the crowds and playing to the camera, they would have been much more interesting candidates. And here we go again.
Well, we have
one
the
of
number
our,
up.
One of our two viewers is calling.
Well, what we have to do now is here. We have a caller on the line, and yes, hello, welcome to the Lionel Mandrake and Matt Murdoch show. Please state your name and what is the purpose for your call.
Hi, my name is Sasha, and I'm just calling
Hi, Sasha.
to support Donald Trump.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, we do not support any political candidates here on the Mandrake show.
Hey,
what did you call
hold
about?
on.
Do you have any other issues you'd like to discuss?
We can't. We
There
can't.
is no issue.
But wait-
I'm not calling with an issue. I'm just calling to give my observation from what I hear, what's going on with
Well, let me
Donald
ask you a
Trump.
quick question, Sasha.
People-
Let me ask you a quick question. What do you think about America today? Are we actually the country we once were, or are we going down the drain, spiraling the sink right now, ready to go down?
The second thing, we are spiraling to sink to go down. We're going down the drain. Our beautiful country is diminishing and being given away.
Given away.
We are deteriorating.
Now, when you say
Everything's
given away, in what sense do you mean given away? I mean, are we giving away the Golden Gate Bridge? Are we giving away all of our money and treasure? What are we doing that makes you think we're giving anything away?
The beauty of our country, the rights of the people who come here to work, the rights of our land is all our right to say the Pledge of Allegiance, our right to pray.
Oh, I see. So you see that there's a lot of potential government overreach in the last several years. Do you have any reason or any speculation as to why America is seemingly turning into a more intolerant place, which is what I read that you're saying, Sasha?
People just want to feel good. They don't want to work hard to earn what they have. things are just too freely given.
I see.
And that's the sad part. People don't work hard. Like when relatives would come here from the other countries, they came here, they were sponsored. Otherwise,
Right.
they were not allowed here.
So what do you think about candidate? You were mentioning somebody, I think you said Trump. What do you think about his idea, his proposal to improve and to revamp and to streamline and to correct the massive immigration chaos that has been foisted upon us in the last decades? What do you think about his ideas?
I embrace many of them, perhaps not all, because I'm not too knowledgeable as to the other ones, but basically he speaks from his heart, and he speaks for a lot of the American people.
Well, Sasha, if
We're
you've
just
been listening to the show
afraid to say it.
live, you would hear that Murdoch and I were just discussing candidates who refuse to speak from their heart and to say what it is they really mean. Hence, they don't get elected. Now, that is why Ted Cruz said at the last Republican debate the other day, he said, if we start looking like Democrats, especially on the issue of immigration, we will lose this election. So I think things that are uncomfortable to hear, but need to be said, have to be done in a proper way, which is fairly embraced and certainly, not punitive. What do you say?
I feel that way exactly.
Certainly.
Exactly.
And see the
Surely that's the way things really are.
Mr. Murdoch.
The facts are the facts. We know what we see. We see it every day. You see young people who don't want to work. You see people who come here, and there's nothing wrong with people who come here because it is a beautiful country, but they come here with the expectations of give, and give. And they come here illegal. Our families had to come here legally. We
All
had
right.
to be sponsored. Otherwise, you were totally deported.
What do you think
Where's
about?
the fairness to that?
You're right. In other words, when they say that a lot of the immigrants that come here, and most of them are good people and hardworking,
Absolutely,
nobody
they
is
are.
disputing that fact. We all agree
No.
immigration is good and that these are good people that are trying their best to become American
Yes, they
citizens.
are.
But when you have some candidates denying the fact that some of them are lawbreakers, for example, if you are a law-abiding person who just happens to be here illegally, you're totally ignoring the fact that that person came here illegally. They broke all laws. Maybe they overstayed their visa, which means that they signed papers that said that they would leave after a certain amount of time. They did not do it. There has to be some rule of law in order to make our country better.
okay.
Right. Years ago, there were level of laws. You were immediately deported.
Hold on. Mr.
Immediately.
Murdoch wants to ask you a question.
Hi, Mr. Murdoch.
Hello, Sasha. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I'm Sasha. I really enjoy your conversation with your partner.
Okay. Can you hear me fine?
Well, who do you prefer more to listen to, me or Murdoch?
Okay. Just let me.
Both of you, you're a team.
Let me talk to Sasha for a
Both of
second
you.
here. Okay. All right. All right.
Hi.
Now, so the question I would like to ask you, okay, and you just touched upon it just now, is how previous generations of immigrants that came to this country, I've been hearing a lot about how previous generations pretty much agree with what people like you and Mr. Mandrake and I are saying. It's like, okay, we had to make the legal transition. We came through.
Absolutely.
We went through the process of the process of immigration and naturalization, and we are just as upset as any. I'm quoting them. We are just as upset as anyone to the fact that we got a generation or so that comes over and skirts around all that. They don't bother to assimilate. They don't bother to learn the language and go through the natural process of becoming legal American citizens. It's not a problem of, we're not anti-immigrant. We just want it done the right way.
Exactly, because
Absolutely. That's what our country is made of. Immigrants. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
I mean, we've had 50 years of
Thank you
unrestricted.
for making that clear, sir.
Yes,
You
Mr.
said
Murdoch.
it
You're
Thank
well.
welcome.
Getting back to to Lionel Mandrake, that's me,
Sasha.
your trusty host, Sasha. Getting back to what I was saying, of course, we've had 50 years of unrestricted, virtually unlimited immigration into the United States of America, and we're starting to see the results of that. We're having a balkanized, fragmented country right now that really has too much of an emphasis on what makes us different rather than what brings us together. And I think it's time now that we really have to start thinking in terms of what's fair, what our country needs, what kind of workers we expect.
Our country needs.
It shouldn't be based on anybody who wants to come to the United States what they want, so we should just open up the borders and not have a country. Like Donald Trump says. Now, again, on the Lionel Mandrake Show, we are not endorsing any candidate whatsoever. We are not biased. We have not made a decision yet on who we wish to decide to back when it gets to that point. Am I right, Murdoch?
That's true. And but however, callers such as Sasha, they're free to call and offer their opinion.
And
There's no restriction on that.
since Sasha, I am talking about this immigration issue, and it's an issue that people find very uncomfortable, including yours truly.
People take it in a very derogatory way, but it's not being expressed that way. It's looking out for the future of our country, and it is a trickle-down effect.
Well, when people talk about immigrants, I always tell Murdoch, look, I'm not an immigrant. My mother was not an immigrant. My grandmother was not an immigrant, and her parents were not immigrants. So although we may have a lineage that has a certain, let us say, from the beginning, European-based immigration policy that began way back since the founding of the country, and then began to change back in the 1965 Immigration and Naturalization Act, where now we have a more diverse country which evolved out of all that. What has been done is already finished. What we need to do now is stop focusing so much on what makes us different and start focusing more on how we can work together and enjoy our beautiful country that you mentioned before it gets so ugly and so mixed up where people do not wish to really even be near each other anymore.
What you just said.
Social fragmentation and decline. It looks clear.
Yeah, it's like okay, what I've been saying for a while now, for the longest time, people said that America was a melting pot. I think we're more like a patchwork quilt.
No, wait a minute, Mr.
Because if we were a melting pot, then we would have a one-mindedness as far as what we all are as Americans.
Now, Mr. Murdoch brings up an excellent question. The whole idea of America was as a melting pot. We all came here from and brought with us our various experiences, ethnicities, cultural norms, and so forth. But we all sort of got into this climate where we could all become Americans. And what does it mean to be an American? Well, it's an inherent sense of fairness, I think.
It's an honor.
It's an honor. It used to be an honor. When somebody came to this country, they wanted to be American. They wanted to really learn the language. Now, immigrants that come here today do try to learn the language. I'm not going to criticize them on it. They try. But by the same token, we shouldn't be bending over backwards. In the old days, we used to complain, press 1 for English, press 2 for Swahili, press 3 for Chinese. We shouldn't be having election ballots printed in 34 different languages here in New York City. I think if you can't speak English, then why should you vote? Because you're not voting on the basis of what you can evaluate necessarily. You're voting because, I don't know, maybe you were told to vote Democratic, which is why we're importing so many potential Democratic voters. Yeah, you vote Democrat, you get your freebies. You get your social services, you get your welfare checks. Not everybody, but certainly there is a big abuse of the system, and a lot of it is really based on, on this whole Democrat policy of, you vote for us and we'll give you stuff. That's why the Republicans aren't doing so good, because they're not promising to give you anything except a fair shake, an honest break to try and do what you are capable of doing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with conservatism is like, okay, all right, it's the exact opposite of what Mr. Mandrake just said about what the liberals do.
Call me Mandrake, please. Mandrake is better.
It's like, okay, conservatives believe, okay, earn your way, pay your way. We're not going to hand anything to you.
It's not about equality of, it's not about equality, it's not about, equality of outcome. It's about equality of opportunity. We all have an equal opportunity, but we don't all have the same outcome. A lot of that is based on your own, ability to motivate yourself, being self-motivated, and being lucky. Not everybody can be something that we all want to be. We can only try our best. But if the opportunity avails itself, America really is the land of opportunity. But I do see that the government, in my opinion, which is why we are at the undisclosed location, we had to move our studios from area to area. I don't want to get too much into it, but we have been monitored by certain government agencies like the
NSA.
NSA is a big one.
We didn't say that.
Listen, the NSA has been monitoring us because they simply, under the Obama presidency, they are not on board with our position on immigration, on what they've done internationally, on how the Middle East is exploding into a bloodbath, especially if you're a Christian, and how things are happening with the economy. I mean, our sources tell us that in New York City, there's no longer a Pathmark anymore. Pathmark, one of the largest supermarket chains that you had on the Northeast Coast, which was under the umbrella of A&P, went kaput. Now, how does that happen? Was it some kind of a conspiracy, or was it some big fat guy who was at the top, who was the president of the A&P Pathmark Corporation? He took the money, he donated to the Democratic National Committee, and now he ran off and he's on a yacht somewhere off the coast of Montauk. Am I right, Mr. Murdoch? This is why we can't disclose our location. But that being said, Well, we have to be cautious. Well, it's very nice talking to you, Sasha. And since we are not endorsing any political candidate, as I keep trying to emphasize, am I right, Mr. Murdoch?
That's true.
Don't hang up. When I hang up from you, talk to our producer, give your name and address, and we'll send you a free "Make America Great" bumper sticker. Okay?
No, we're not promoting
All right,
anybody.
since I detected.
Keep up the good work in getting your points across.
I detected that you, from the beginning, you had your favorites, so we just so happened to have one of these bumper stickers that was left here from the previous host. Thank you very much, Sasha. Stay on the line.
All right, thank you both, guys.
Thank
Remember,
you, Sasha.
Oh, by the way, we'd like our vast listening audience out there to know that
All
the
two of them.
Mandrake Show, all 2 million of them, because we
We're
did have
working
a
our
poll.
way back up to 12.
Exactly. We would like you to know that there is going to be a series. It's going to be every Wednesday at 11 p.m. on Channel 34. Do you understand? Tell your friends, Lionel Mandrake.
I'll